Hey everybody, it's Lance with Field Trial Central. We're going to try to pull a hat trick again in the next few days. We are in southwest North Dakota, down in my wife's home country. So we're going to try to get a couple interviews, and the first one is going to be with Steve Hurdle. So we didn't get a chance to speak to him last year, but we're going to definitely do it now. So without further ado, here's Steve Hurdle. Hello, Steve.
Hey man, how you doing?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. It's I don't know, it's 7, 8 o'clock at night, and it's a gorgeous out and beautiful night. So we caught up in Reeder, met at the bar/restaurant, and it just so worked out, or happened to work out that you're here. So appreciate you taking the time with us to speak with us and all of our followers. We got a pretty good following going on all of these videos. So since we didn't get Steve last year, Steve, let's talk a little bit about why you come to the prairies, how you happen to come up here. I know you've been in several places throughout the Dakotas, I'll call it. You just give us a little background.
Well, I've been coming up here close to 30 years. I worked for some older trainers back years ago, and then I've been on my own for the last 25, I guess. We come to here because of the climate and birds. We don't have quite the humidity up here that they do down south and everything. We got a lot more birds. Come up here to pattern the dogs, get them in shape, get ready. And there's some good championships, good trials going on up here too while we're here. And we do all of it for that. Trying to get ready for the nationals.
Perfect. So again, we are in Reeder, North Dakota, southwest North Dakota. Your camp is on, just barely into South Dakota,
right.
On a couple
I'm
ranches.
On the McFarland Ranch there in the house down South Dakota, just right across the state line. That's where I'm at.
Yep. And before that, you were up.
I was up at Columbus on Fagerbachis in Columbus, North Dakota.
Yeah.
And Noonan in Columbus.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, so you've been up there for several years, and you just transitioned down here over the last several years.
Right. Last 4 years I've been
4
here.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose to come down here?
Well, just Mr. Buddy Smith, a Hall of Famer there at home, he had told me he had a lot of birds down here over the years, and I just felt like I'd wanted to change, and it's a little closer, about 5 hours closer to home for one thing.
Yeah.
And it's down here in the middle of these championships over at Mobridge. It's just a couple hours over to Mobridge, and that's one of the reasons.
Yep. Proximity, it's always good.
Right.
Like real estate agent, location.
That's right. That's
Good stuff. How did you end up on the Howes land? So Buddy Smith gave you the in there?
Yeah, Mr. Buddy's known him for years. He'd been coming up here. I don't know how long Mr. Buddy's been coming up here, but he gave me the in with Steve, the McFarlands, and Steve's a cattle manager for the house. He takes care of the cattle and stuff there, and they have buffalo down there and stuff. But that's how I got in.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, again, Steve, we appreciate it. And last year, we talked about why do you guys come to the prairies, and you gave a little bit of that information up front in your intro. This year, we're trying to get a little bit deeper into the conversation with all you trainers, and we appreciate it. So we're after the what are you doing? So off camera, we talked about puppies. You don't have or do a puppy program.
No,
Okay.
I'm not into the puppies as much. I need to be, I guess, but I'm not into them as much as a lot of these guys are. I just get them as derbies and try to go from there.
Yeah, so, and then that's not a problem. Let's just pick up with the derbies then. So you get a derby. Do you do any work with that derby before you come to the prairies?
Oh, yeah. We do some bench work and yard work there at home. Then we get up here and we try to get them patterned. We work them on pigeons back at home, do a little yard work with that and just get them to slow them down and whoa them some. And then you get up here and you get them in a lot of birds. They'll let you know. They go to pointing enough and they get to standing long enough. They let you know when they're ready to break or put some pressure on.
Gotcha.
And we try to pattern them up here. They can see you. They can run off the horse. They can see you from a better distance than you can down home, and that's the main thing is getting a pattern on them. We want them that 2 to 10. You want that peripheral vision. You want them in that front. That's where you want them. You can't win from behind, and that's what we work on with these young dogs up here. And then we, our old dogs, we rode them and get them in shape and everything for the trials. And you know, we spend our time, you know, mostly on our young dogs, and we'll get our old dogs in shape and put them in birds and get ready for the trials.
So let's back up if we could. Let's help our listeners out and followers out. So you talked about the pigeon work, talked about, you know, slowing them, doing a little board work, I think you said.
Right, bench work.
Bench work, sorry. Talk about just, if you could elaborate on the process that you go through with your pigeon. Is it, you know, in a trap? Is it, you know, dizzied? What do you do?
Well, you know, we do it in different ways. I mean, we have it on a pole and get them excited and go, and then we'll set them out there, you know, in a trap or whatever. It depends on the dog. A lot of times it makes a difference in the dog. I mean, some dogs can take things that others can't, and you have to read that dog to be able to use the different methods with the pigeon. Or, you know, a lot of things with dogs are man-made, and we trainers, we might not want to admit it, but we mess up every now and then. I mean, we make mistakes. I mean, we're human.
Yep.
And, you know, these dogs are a lot smarter than we give them credit to being. And, you know, it's just, you know, you can use the trap, you can use the pole, you can use the launching deal, whatever, you know, it just depends on the situation and what dog, that dog's demeanor. I mean, it means a lot.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good information. That's perfect. And then back to, you come to the prairies. Off camera, you said that one of the main reasons was just to develop that pattern for that Derby dog. Describe that process that you do to help them along in that development of developing that pattern for that Derby dog.
Well, before we get up here now, and I know a lot of the trainers do it, we'll take a pole with a pigeon and sort of gang run those puppies and let them, you know, they'll go to fall and getting in front of that horse, and they get excited, and they, well, then you get up here and you got a lot of wild birds. You go to running that horse, and they go to finding those birds out front. They, you know, if they got what it takes, they pick it up and they'll stay in front of you. And then eventually, the longer we're here, those dogs, once they go to standing there long enough, they're telling you they're ready. They're getting close to ready to break. And, you know, that's one of the main signs to look for, how long they stand. You know, a lot of these puppies, they smell them and they'll just run right through them and take them out. Well, they're not quite ready. When that dog goes to those birds and stands, and he's letting you know he's ready to, you know, he's getting close to ready to break. And, you know, you just got to read those signs and things with these young dogs.
Yep. So now we've transitioned that I think we're giving our viewers a really good timeline of that Derby dog, you know. So when that dog does show you the signs, it's ready to be broke. How is your breaking process? Can you describe your breaking process for us?
Well, we all have different ways. You know, we put the collar around the flanks, maybe touch them light to make them stand there. Some people take a choke chain and a half hitch around the flanks. We set them back, you know, just pick the dog up, set him back, get down and brush him up, you know, reward him, let him know that's good. We're glad to see what he's doing, brush his tail up, walk back out in front. Hey, up here is one thing that stands out, and I think all trainers will tell you this. These pheasants and chickens, these young birds, when you set that dog back and then you go out in front and flush for that second time or something, when that other bird gets up and that dog sits there and he sees that bird fly off, that is one of the best things that can happen to a young dog. You shoot that gun, buddy, you're making time then.
Yep.
You know, everything's going your way when you're lucky enough to get that done.
Yeah.
And we look for that. I mean, that's what helps make these young dogs.
Yeah, you can't create, I've said this so many times, but you can't create that scenario any other way.
You can't make it. You just got to be lucky enough and the good Lord above shining on you.
Yep.
Yeah,
To have that anchor bird out there.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Perfect. Awesome. So, you know, now we got that Derby dog broken. Do you, when you go to, you know, your first trials off the prairies or on the prairies, do you expect that dog to be, you know, we've heard it so many times now this year, fall broke? Is that what I mean, you can just get out there. Do you expect it to be completely finished Derby before you go to your first trial with it?
No, I mean, I'm from the old school. I was taught by, people like Mr. Hoyle Eaton and Faith Thornberry and different ones way back. Uh, you know, if you got a dog stopped within 10 to 15 yards of where the point established, and if you can woe that dog, you can shoot over it, go get it by the collar, and go on. That's fine. But this day and these derbies nowadays, Mr. Farrell back years ago, he made it a little hard on all of us. He's a perfectionist, and he's made it tough on all of us open handlers and trainers, I guess. He had them broke when he come to the futurities and stuff, and we've had judges to pick up some derbies, and I've seen picked up derbies that wouldn't back. Since
Yeah.
Mr. Farrell had them backing and broke and stuff, and I mean nothing against Mr. Farrell, he just demanded perfection and he got it done,
Yep.
and some of the rest of us didn't.
Yep.
And that's just part of it.
Yep.
But no, I don't think any judge that's reasonably open-minded to these dogs and the guys making a living at this, I think if a dog stops within a reasonable amount of time and shows that that he's broke, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Fall broke, but now after Christmas, they need to be broke. The
Gotcha.
first of the year, they need to stand there.
Yep.
And I agree. That's the way I look at it. That's just Steve's opinion, but
I think that's some
But-
other people's opinion as well,
well,
but that fall
I
broke is a
think
different
that's-
definition.
I think that's way it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So now we got that derby broke, and it's going to go on and do its derby season, right? Now let's talk about, and I think most people know, everybody should know, Steve, you run the all-age circuit. Talk about your program for your all-age dogs in the summer.
Well, I bring the old dogs up here and I road them. I mean, I road them as much as I can, and the derbies I work. I set how many derbies I have, I work them every other day, or if I don't have it many, I work them every day. It depends on the dog. I have to read the dog and see
Yep.
what they can take. Now, the all-age dogs, I just continue to road them, get them ready for the trials, and maybe a couple of weeks before the trials, I'll turn them loose, let them point those birds. I think I was told, Mr. Hoyle always told me, he said, son, don't overdo the old dogs. He said they're crisp if you'll turn them loose a few times before the trial, and that's what I've always done. I've took his word at that. For the couple of weeks before the trials, I'll turn them loose, let them point some birds, put them up.
Yep.
And other than that, that's pretty much. I go out like in the evening around these gravel roads on these ranches and stuff. We'll turn some of these dogs. If we see birds cross the road, we'll put them on birds, let them point them, pick them up. Derbies, that's the best thing in the world for derbies, to get them broke. The more when they know you're right there with them, and you put them on those birds and then pick them right up, put them in the truck. Hey, you can't beat that.
Right.
The scenarios and the things that can happen up here, it just there's no. I don't know how to say it.
Hard to recreate that.
Yeah. You
can't.
You can't create it. It has to it just happens.
Yep.
And it's no. There's just no replacement for it. I mean, there's nothing that can make it any better.
Yep. Yep.
It's the real deal.
So those all-age dogs, roading, I assume early in the mornings by four-wheeler?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We rode them by four-wheeler, and then if there's a dog that, you'll have an old dog that, he don't like that four-wheeler. You might have a fighter in there. You might have a dog in season or something. You'll take a horse and road them separate or whatever. It just depends on the situation
Gotcha.
and
Yep.
everything. But it like you say, you just, there's nothing to replace this country up here, and nobody knows how lucky we are to be able to come up here. These ranchers and people up here, we're blessed to have them. I mean, they make our life easier, and it just, nothing makes me any happier than to come up here. And they appreciate us, and we all should appreciate them. I mean, as long as you treat these people with respect and the way you want to be treated, they'll treat you the same way.
Yep.
And I don't know that there's any better part of training dogs than coming north in the summer. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something that I've always loved and cherished.
Yeah. The more I do this, it is special, and it's I can just see the glow in all of your guys' eyes and face when you get up here. It's just
you got to
it's a new
respect
season.
these people. It
Yep.
takes tough people up here in this country. We don't know how tough they are, to tell you the truth. I mean, you think about it, when they settled this land back years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreal.
Yep.
It's unreal.
It's some days in the winter it is not forgiving. That is for sure. I can attest to that. But well, we appreciate it, Steve. We did have a I guess we didn't discuss this off camera, but we added a wild question. So you can talk about your favorite grounds to run on, or if you had a favorite dog you would like to run again. Doesn't have to be your dog, past or present, or any trainer you would like to go and train with for a day, past or present. Any of those things that come to your mind that you would like to just comment on? Grounds, dog, or other trainers?
Well, I'd like to have my Spirits Blaze dog back, the one I won the National Shooting Dog Championship.
So what did that dog do special that brings it to your mind?
She was the real deal.
Yeah.
You know, she was honest, and she just, everything she done.
Yep,
it
good
was
deal.
Right.
Perfect.
One thing a certain person said about her, we were working on Sedgefield Plantation down in Alabama. Billy Wayne Morton, Joe Don House, and I, and they had turned loose a bunch of them high-priced dogs that they were trying to sell and stuff, and we got to going down through there, and old Blaze, I mean, she was just wearing them out. She was finding all the birds, and Joe Don rode up to me, and he said, "Hurdle," he said, "this boar choke nose bitch has got to go." He said, "We can't get nothing done with her out here," and I'll never forget it.
That's
You
a
know,
good one.
Them, you know, dogs like that you don't forget.
Yeah. That's special. That's good stuff, Steve. We appreciate it, Steve. Welcome back to the Dakotas. We appreciate the time, and you have a wonderful camp this summer, and good luck in the season.
You bet, man. Enjoy.